Here's a question you've probably never thought to ask. Why do you have a grandmother? It sounds almost too obvious to even be a real question, but step back. And it's one of the strangest things about being human, because in almost the entire animal kingdom, grandmothers simply don't exist. Most animals reproduce right up until they die. There is no after. Yet, human women can live for 30, 40, even 50 years after their last child. And that long, late chapter of life may be one of the biggest secrets to how we became human. To see how strange this is, just look at the rest of nature. A female mouse, a deer, a chimpanzee, they stay fertile almost to the very end. When their bodies can no longer reproduce, they usually die soon after. And from evolution's cold point of view, that makes perfect sense. Natural selection only really cares about one thing: passing on genes. Once an animal stops reproducing, it's no longer useful to evolution, so why keep it alive? By that logic, menopause should never have existed at all. A body that lives for decades without reproducing looks like a pure evolutionary mistake. And yet humans do exactly that. In every culture on Earth, out of roughly 6,000 mammal species, only a tiny handful share this trait: humans and a few whales. In the ocean, orcas, the killer whales, do something remarkably human. Female orcas go through menopause and then live for decades longer, and those old grandmother whales become the leaders of the entire pod. They remember where the food hides in the hardest years, and they guide the young to it. Studies found that when a grandmother orca dies, her grandcalves are far more likely to die too. The very same pattern in a completely different animal points to something deep. Living on past reproduction isn't a mistake. It can be a superpower. So why did it happen to us? The leading answer is called the grandmother hypothesis. It came from an anthropologist named Kristen Hawkes and her team. In the 1980s, they went to live among the Hadza, hunter-gatherers in Tanzania. They carefully weighed every scrap of food that each person brought back to camp, and they found something they truly did not expect. The hunters, the men, often came back with nothing at all. It was the women who reliably fed the family day after day. And the hardest workers of all weren't the young mothers. They were the old women, the grandmothers. While a mother nursed her newest baby, the grandmother dug roots and gathered food for the older children. She fed the grandchildren that the mother simply couldn't reach. And that one thing changed everything. With grandmother's help, a mother could have her next baby sooner without the older children going hungry. More children survived. More grandchildren were born. The whole family line thrived. And here is the quiet genius of it. A grandmother who lived a little longer and stayed a little stronger could help even more, so her descendants inherited those very same long life genes. Generation after generation, evolution quietly favored the grandmothers who lasted longer, and slowly, the entire human lifespan stretched out. We may live as long as we do today, in large part because of grandmothers, and there is real, hard evidence written into our own history. A study of centuries-old church records in Finland and Canada tracked thousands of families. Children who had a living grandmother nearby were far more likely to survive to adulthood. Across different centuries and continents, the pattern held: grandmothers kept children alive. But grandmothers didn't only bring back food. They carried something no other animal passes down so well: knowledge. Where to find water in a drought, which plants heal, and which ones kill, the stories, the language, the past. A grandmother is a living library holding decades of hard-won survival inside her. In a world with no books and no writing, she was the memory of the entire tribe. Lose her, and you lost everything she knew. So when you picture our ancestors around the fire, don't only see the hunters, see the old woman beside them, the one who fed the children and remembered the way. She was never a burden on the tribe. She may have been the reason it survived. Almost no animal on Earth gets to grow old and matter more than ever. You belong to one of the only species that does. Every long human life, every grandparent who ever helped raise a child is part of that ancient gift. You are here, in part, because somewhere down the line, a grandmother refused to stop helping. She had no more children left to give, so she gave everything else instead. And that may be one of the most human things that has ever existed.